Now joining us next will be Joel Solomon. Joel, I was looking over your bio, and obviously being a former securities principal myself, it's very intriguing to see some of the things that you're doing. And the first question I think I'd like to ask you, if it's okay with you, is that you've committed to helping over 100,000 people to become financially free. And just at the beginning, how do you decide to do something like that?
Great question. Thanks for having me on the show, and I really appreciate it. Well, two reasons. One, I went to a conference in December 2015, a very inspirational conference. There were 200 people there. It was a 3-day conference, and I went there to get my hedge fund to the next level. I was at a position where I really needed to raise a lot more money to be a very profitable hedge fund. And two things happened at that conference. The first was they had a guest speaker on day 2 that was invited to speak about stock options. And he touted the benefits of stock options and how if you just bought some calls and puts on Facebook in front of their first earnings report, you could have made 5 to 10 times your money. And then he gave other similar examples. And I really just felt sick to my stomach because I realized he was being completely inauthentic to these people who were looking to find a way to become financially free. They weren't told about the risks of options and the potential that they could lose their whole investment quite easily. People came up to me after the presentation since they knew I was a hedge fund manager. They asked my opinion, and I pleaded with them not to sign up for his course to trade options. And I realized that, first of all, I could do a better job educating people about stock and stock options without trying to get them to trade them, to make money in a very short period of time, a get-rich-quick kind of scheme. And the second thing that happened at that course was we were given a piece of wood, and we were told that this exercise, which was called obstacle illusions, was going to change our views about obstacles. And on one side, we had to write our obstacle, and the other side, we had to write our goal. And I wrote for my obstacle, raising enough money for my hedge fund to be massively profitable. And I wrote on the other side my goal, which was to make everybody in this room financially free. And like the other approximately 200 people in the room, I broke that board, went home that night, and realized it was a non sequitur. The obstacle, raising enough money for my hedge fund, has nothing to do with the goal, which was making everyone in that room financially free. And so that next morning, I went into my office. I sent an email to my investors telling them I was shutting down my fund, that I figured out my true purpose, at least on this lifetime, which was to help people become financially free.
That's a great thing to think of. I've spent a tremendous amount of time managing other people's money myself and understand the dynamics of the fiduciary responsibility associated with managing money. Would you argue that you've essentially taken over the fiduciary responsibility of managing people's priorities going forward with regard to their money themselves and just the thinking about it?
Well, I view everyone as responsible for their own lives. So I will not take responsibility for someone else. I will guide them along the path of financial freedom. But I tell people you're responsible for your life as opposed to me being responsible for their life. So I empower people to become financially free. And that, what I mean by that is that your passive income investments cover your expenses so that you don't have to work if you don't want to. That means that if we assume that, for example, your expenses are $5,000 a month, say $60,000 a year, and if we assume that those expenses are stable or those are your dream expenses, then you would just need $1 million to be financially free, assuming those passive income investments return 6% on average over the rest of your lifetime. And 6%, I think, is a fairly conservative assumption, and that would get you to become financially free.
Joe, we're coming up against it here for our break here. We'll have one more question before we go in, but a little bit about, obviously you've spent a lot of time thinking about this. It's just one of those things that we, as financial people, you wrestle with, and it seems to me that you've kind of found your way here for Coming back on the other side, let's talk about your book. Let's talk about some of the things you really want to do, some of the things you think are very important, some of the things that really drive you and gave you the courage, because that's what I call it, courage, to come back and actually remove yourself from the hedge fund and take this particular giant risk. Is that's something we'd like to talk about on the other side. Uh, Going forward, I guess, is there anything, just this last minute or a few seconds here or so, is there anything that you could tell us that just really really drives you as far as wanting to do this? Because I see a lot I see a lot we need to talk about. We may or may not have time for it, but just that one thing, that one word that you can think of that really drives you.
Well, the one word is I want to help people to find their passion, to love what they do, and get paid to do it. I want people to know that they're responsible for their life and they can become financially free if they have absolute faith and they overcome their doubts and fears around money.
Well, that's a challenge for all of us. I think that I always used to say it's always different when you push the button in real time, and I think a lot of people sometimes have issues with that. As far as you're concerned, I guess one other thing before we go on for the break here. Getting into the coaching business and getting into the prosperity business, describe what that means to you. What does it mean to be a prosperity coach?
Yeah, prosperity coach to me is I'm helping people become financially free so that they don't have to work if they don't want to. I would encourage all the listeners to go to my website, joelsalomon.com, to see the 3 modules that I offer. I offer basics education on cash flow, budgeting, and savings. I teach investment education, but most importantly, I think, is I empower people to help manifest their dreams. And
Okay.
I know
Okay.
manifesting.
Hold that thought right there, Joel. We're up against a break here. We'll be back on the other side with those other questions. I'll get back with you. We'll give you a chance to kind of expand on those things and drill down on them. Okay. Hey, you're listening to CEO Money with Ed Baxter and Michael Yober. This segment brought to you by Tycon Partners. We'll be right back on the other side of this break. Welcome back to CEO Money. I'm Ed Baxter, sitting in for Michael Yorba. We're talking to Joel SalLaMor, SalLaMor, Chief Prosperity Officer. Joel, we left off with a couple of different questions, and I was really kind of firing at you, so I'll apologize for that. But a couple of different things that kind of stand out here. What would you say your service differs from a financial advisor or a broker, and what services do you actually offer?
That's a great question, Ed. So I would say, financial advisors, financial planners will put together some type of plan to get you to invest in insurance or annuities or mutual funds. So they're generally selling a product. We don't sell a product. What we do is we work with our clients to empower them to make their own decisions. So I'm a coach. I charge per hour a fee to get them closer to financial freedom. So we have on our website a financial freedom survey. It probably takes 2 to 3 minutes to fill out, and people can see how close they are to financial freedom. They may already be financially free, or they may be closer than they think, but a lot of people don't have the education. And so we educate and empower people to get closer to their dreams and desires, so they don't have to work if they don't want to.
Well, in a scenario like that, if you're looking at a person's portfolio, and I've done those a few of those myself, how much do you change? Are the changes draconian, or how much change do you affect in the portfolios based on your advice?
It can be very little. It can be very significant, and sometimes it's not working on the portfolio at all, but just working on, like I started to get into before the break, just working with people's doubts and fears. Because what I believe, and I think most people don't really understand, is they have some subliminal, subconscious beliefs around money that haven't really been come to the surface. And once they do come to the surface, they can recognize them and overcome them. So I talk to people about doubting the doubt, right? Overcoming their fears around money. And it may not even be, changing a portfolio. It may be just working on their philosophies around money. Some people call me the money shrink.
Well, First of all, congratulations again on your upcoming book, Mindful Money Management: Memoirs of a Hedge Fund Manager. Kind of shed some light on that for us.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Ed. So the book Mindful Money Management is a book about how to incorporate mindfulness into your daily habits, including how you manage your own personal finances. And it's very different, I think, from any other hedge fund book out there in that it talks about, again, empowering people to manage their own money. And I go through various lessons I learned in dealing with the volatility of being a professional manager, which can apply, again, to every individual investor. It can apply to people who are investing on the side. So I talk about my biggest lessons learned. Some of them include enjoying yourself and having fun, because there were times when I was managing money that I didn't enjoy myself, and I realized that the more you're present in the moment, being mindful, enjoying what you're doing, the more abundance is going to flow to you.
Okay. Well, we're kind of up against it here for a second, Joe. I have one last question I'd really like to give you a chance to open up about, and that, what exactly is your true passion? Give me your short answer on that one. What exactly you see as your true passion? Obviously, coaching is good, but just end our interview with that.
My true passion is being of service to others, helping others become financially free. So I've learned that, if you'd asked me 20 years ago what my true passion is, it would have been, becoming a money manager in order to help others. And I think through becoming a prosperity coach this last year, I realized that my biggest passion is helping others, being of service to others, so that seeing them succeed is a huge, huge passion of mine, and it makes me feel great.
Well, fabulous, Joel. Give us your website once again before we go, to let us know how we can contact you and get a chance to really delve into using your services.
Yeah, it's joelsalomon.com, really easy. My first and last name. The other way, alternately, is SalLaMor.com, my hedge fund name, and now the prosperity coaching name, SalLaMor, SalAurMor.com, named after my daughters, Lauren and Morgan.
Perfect, Joel. I thank you very much for joining us today. You've been outstanding, and I've learned a lot from you just listening to you and your passion. Thank you for choosing to help others and to be a servant. We really appreciate that, and we appreciate your time. We'll be right back with
so much,
Marcus to Watch.